On the morning of April 18, 1906, as most of San Francisco still slept beneath a pale blue dawn, the earth began to move, not gently, not politely, but with a violence that would redraw maps, shatter fortunes, expose corruption, reveal heroism, and transform the United States forever. In less than a minute, one American city would become a furnace. In 3 days, it would become a legend. This is the true story of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire, the disaster that changed modern America. At 5:12 a.m., a low rumble rolled beneath the city like distant thunder trapped underground. Dishes rattled. Gas lamps flickered. A few light sleepers stirred. Then the rumble grew into a roar. Buildings convulsed. Streets split apart. Brick facades peeled away as if made of paper. The ground itself heaved in waves so violent that eyewitnesses later said it felt like standing on the deck of a ship in a storm-tossed sea. The earthquake struck with an estimated magnitude of 7.8 along the San Andreas Fault, a massive fracture in the Earth's crust stretching hundreds of miles through California. In 1906, few Americans understood plate tectonics. The science of earthquakes was still primitive. But what people understood instantly was terror. Chimneys collapsed to rooftops. Church steeples crashed into empty streets. Wooden homes swayed like trees in a hurricane. In the city's elegant downtown, proud stone and brick buildings, symbols of wealth and progress, crumbled within seconds. The Palace Hotel, one of the most luxurious in the nation, shook violently as guests stumbled into hallways and nightclothes, screaming. Telegraph lines snapped. Water mains burst. Gas pipes ruptured. And within minutes, small fires began to flicker across the broken city. San Francisco in 1906 was a booming metropolis of about 400,000 people. It was the gateway to the Pacific, enriched by the gold rush, railroads, banking, and global trade. It was also a city of stark contrasts. Magnificent mansions on Nob Hill overlooking crowded immigrant neighborhoods, especially Chinatown, where thousands of Chinese laborers lived in tight quarters amid deep prejudice and legal discrimination. The earthquake did not discriminate. It struck bankers and dockworkers, politicians and prostitutes alike. In the working class south of Market District, entire rows of wooden tenements collapsed. Families crawled from debris, dazed and bleeding. Horses broke loose from stables and bolted through debris-strewn streets. Streetcar tracks twisted like ribbons. In some places, the ground split open, swallowing fences and cracking foundations in half. But the true devastation was only beginning. The broken gas lines fed dozens of fires. With water mains shattered, firefighters found their hydrants useless. They tried dynamite to create fire breaks, blowing up buildings in the path of the flames, but often made matters worse. Flames leapt from block to block, driven by strong winds. Within hours, multiple infernos were merging into one unstoppable wall of fire. Brigadier General Frederick Funston of the U.S. Army, stationed at the Presidio, made a fateful decision. Without waiting for civilian authorization, he ordered federal troops into the city to maintain order. Soldiers patrolled streets with rifles and fixed bayonets. Martial law was never officially declared, but in practice, the city was under military control. Looting was feared. Some looting did occur. Soldiers were authorized to shoot looters on sight. In the chaos, there were tragic mistakes, innocent people misidentified as criminals. Yet many troops also performed acts of extraordinary bravery, rescuing trapped families, guiding refugees to safety, and helping evacuate hospitals. As fires raged, entire neighborhoods fled toward open spaces, the waterfront, public parks, the Presidio, Golden Gate Park. Thousands carried whatever they could salvage: suitcases, blankets, family photographs, caged birds, even pianos dragged into the streets. By nightfall, more than half the city's population was homeless. Chinatown faced a particular peril. Long targeted by racist politicians who wanted to relocate or eliminate the community, it now lay in the direct path of advancing flames. Chinese residents desperately fought fires with buckets, but the lack of water sealed their fate. The district burned almost completely. Yet, in the ashes of Chinatown's destruction emerged a remarkable story of resilience and political strategy. Chinese community leaders understood that powerful business interests wanted to permanently move Chinatown to a less valuable area outside the city center. So they rebuilt, faster and more elaborately than before. With pagoda-style architecture and exoticized facades, they crafted a neighborhood that appealed to tourism and commerce. It was both survival and savvy marketing. Chinatown would remain and thrive. Meanwhile, Nob Hill, home to railroad barons and mining magnates, also fell. The mansions of the wealthy, symbols of Gilded Age opulence, burned to skeletal frames. The Grand Stanford Mansion, the Crocker Estate, the Huntington home, gone. The disaster leveled social distinctions in a way few events ever had. For 3 days the fires burned. Smoke darkened the sky. Refugee camps sprawled across parks and beaches. The smell of ash and salt water filled the air. Estimates of the death toll were long minimized, partly to protect the city's image. Early official reports claimed around 700 dead. Modern historians believe the true number exceeded 3,000. Entire families vanished. Bodies were incinerated beyond recognition. Some deaths were never recorded. Financial losses reached approximately $400 million in 1906, over $10 billion in today's terms. It was one of the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history. But the earthquake's impact extended far beyond California. Insurance companies across the United States and Europe faced massive claims. Some went bankrupt. Others paid out in full, strengthening public trust in the insurance industry. Lloyd's of London honored its obligations, reinforcing its global reputation. The disaster also triggered a banking crisis. San Francisco banks needed cash to rebuild. Gold flowed from New York and Europe to California, tightening financial markets. Some economic historians argue that these pressures contributed to the Panic of 1907, a financial crisis that eventually led to the creation of the Federal Reserve System in 1913. In this way, the shaking of one city influenced the structure of America's central banking system. Scientifically, the earthquake transformed geology. A geologist named Henry Fielding Reed conducted an extensive study of the fault rupture. His work led to the elastic rebound theory, explaining how stress builds along faults and releases suddenly in earthquakes. This theory remains foundational in modern seismology. Urban planning changed as well. Engineers began advocating for stronger building codes. The concept of earthquake-resistant construction slowly gained traction. Though progress was uneven, the seeds of modern disaster preparedness were planted in the rubble of 1906. Yet statistics and policies do not capture the human drama. Consider the story of Enrico Caruso, the famous Italian tenor, who was in San Francisco to perform at the Grand Opera House. He awoke in his hotel as the earthquake struck. Panicked and convinced the apocalypse had arrived, he fled the city on the first train out, vowing never to return. His terrified letters home offer a vivid account of the chaos. By 1915, less than a decade later, San Francisco hosted the Panama Pacific International Exposition, a world's fair celebrating not destruction, but rebirth. Millions attended. The fairgrounds dazzled with grand architecture, electric lights, and technological exhibits. It was a statement to America and the world. The city had not only survived, it had reinvented itself. The earthquake also subtly shifted American psychology. It challenged the era's boundless confidence in progress and industrial might. If a modern city could be reduced to ashes in days, what did that say about human control over nature? The disaster became part of a broader national reckoning in the progressive era, a time when Americans were already questioning corporate power, urban corruption, and social inequality. Writers and poets reflected on the event. Jack London, then a young writer, witnessed the destruction and described it starkly. San Francisco is gone. Yet he also noted the eerie beauty of flames against the night sky. The event entered American folklore, retold in classrooms, documentaries, and family stories passed through generations. Today, the San Andreas Fault remains. Seismologists warn that another, big one, is inevitable. Modern San Francisco, with its tech giants and soaring real estate prices, stands atop the same restless boundary of tectonic plates. But unlike in 1906, the city now has advanced building codes, early warning systems, and detailed emergency response plans. Skyscrapers are engineered to sway rather than shatter. Scientists monitor fault lines with satellites and sensors unimaginable to early 20th century residents. The legacy of 1906 lives in every drill, every retrofitted bridge, every reinforced hospital. It also lives in memory, in the stories of immigrants who rebuilt businesses from nothing, of soldiers who carried strangers from burning homes, of children who grew up in tent cities and later watched their city gleam once more. For American audiences, the story of the 1906 earthquake is not just a California story. It is a national story about resilience, capitalism, science, inequality, immigration, military authority, media influence, and the uneasy relationship between ambition and nature. It reminds us that modern America was forged not only in wars and elections, but in disasters, moments when the ground literally shifted beneath citizens' feet. At 5:12 a.m., the earth roared. Buildings fell. Fires raged. Thousands died. Yet from ash and smoke rose new laws, new science, new financial systems, new architecture, and a renewed civic identity. San Francisco did not simply rebuild what had been lost. It reimagined what a city could be. And that may be the most astonishing fact of all. Sometimes history's greatest destruction becomes the foundation for its boldest reinvention.